Fortes, and I'm the head instructor and program director of Pegasus. I started as a volunteer. A friend of mine's, we both were at the same barn, and she was going to this place, Pegasus, to volunteer and invited me to come. And once I started, that was it. It was like my love for horses and children and teaching all came together, and I knew that it was what I was meant to do right from my first day as a volunteer.
For Pegasus.
My experience as a volunteer, I'll never forget the first student that I worked with. He was 5 years old when I started as a volunteer, and I taught him until he was 17, and he could no longer ride anymore, unfortunately, physically. But working with him and seeing the children at that time that I worked with, just the difference that it made for them, and as somebody who is a lifelong horse person and a horse lover, I had never been exposed to this type of riding. I'd always seen people ride in horse shows, and they always had an agenda, but this was different. It was changing the lives for people in a very different way than you usually see in the horse world. I probably have a million experiences. Every time I teach, there's something that moves me or changes me, but it's actually this little boy that was the first student I was working with as a volunteer. He was very fragile, and when he was on the horse, it just changed. He wasn't very ambulatory or mobile, and he was a little bit shaky, but when he was on the horse, the smile that he had, and he just held the reins, and in that moment, he wasn't disabled anymore. He could move and he could be free in a way that he couldn't when I saw him walk, and it was just like they say that horses are the great equalizer, and that's what I saw in that moment, and it was life-changing for me. And he he's always remained sort of the student that's I've carried with him in my heart, his story and his face and his smile. He was the first for me that affected me in what I do, and he still affects me to this day. To volunteer is these families and these children, or sometimes adults, you have such an effect on their lives, and it matters what you do. When you come and volunteer, they're really going to look for you, and what you're doing makes a difference in a huge way. I used to look forward to volunteering each week, and the kids would greet you, and I remember I had a student who was actually blind, and I'd only been volunteering probably a few months, and it was the horse show, and I had wanted to come and see him ride, and he heard me talking, and he yelled out, "Hi, Liz," and I couldn't believe he knew me just from my voice in such a short period of time. So it matters what you're doing, and I would come home just so happy. I mean, I definitely got back more than I gave, without a doubt, and that's why 15 years later, it's still such a huge part of my life. And volunteers, I think, get just as much out of it, and besides the people that they're working with, the students, that they really makes a difference, just the connections they make with each other and with the families is just really unbelievable, and something you don't really expect. You don't expect it to be as meaningful and impactful as it really is. It's hard to put into words what it means when you come here and volunteer. To make a donation this changes the lives of the people that get to participate here, and for a lot of families, it's difficult for them financially, and I've seen this change the lives of students in ways that you don't even realize is happening. I had a little boy who couldn't really talk. It was hard for him to be vocal, and after he rode, he was able to be heard, literally. He was able to, for the rest of the day, have strength in his voice and be able to communicate for the first time. I had a little girl who used to come with a walker and 3 people to help her get on her horse, and now she walks in on her own and rides off lead independently. I had a little boy with autism who said, "I love you," for the first time in his life, and it was to a horse. And his mother and I both cried. It was one of the most amazing experiences I've ever seen. It it lasts far beyond just a ride on a horse, because that's not what it is. Whether it's the students with physical disabilities, where it literally mimics walking and starts to allow them to ambulate more easily, or for children with autism, the movement of the horse helps organize their sensory system. It's working on fine motor skills and self-confidence and just so many things that we don't realize that it's even doing. Just amazing surprises and benefits that come out of it. So it would be a good place to help, because you're really making a difference in the lives of not just these children, but their families as well. Every day to be a part of something so powerful and so amazing. And I'm just privileged to be a part of this. Just even a small part of this has been just an incredible experience. And I feel lucky every day.